Hold on to your Joy-Cons, folks, because this first guest is the Super Smash Bros. Savant who dodged disaster and defied the flames when he escapes the Palisades fire with nothing but his Nintendo Switch and a dream. He's bringing his gaming brilliance to the blockchain as the newest member of the Gaming on AVAX team. You got to give it up for the Inferno escape artist. Shout out to the indie game aficionado, the Balatro beast. It's Wills.
Yo, yo. Hopefully I won't have to run away again. They're just doing fires everywhere. It's the hot new thing, apparently. But yeah, good to be back.
Wow, too soon, Wills. Even from you, too soon. I appreciate you having a sense of humor about it, though, man. Sorry to everybody that's being affected. Of course, I lived in LA for a few years. Southern California, Northern California. I ran from a few fires myself, very near and dear to my heart. But unfortunately, it's just reality of that center of the world that we just need to sort of accept and try to do better. Up next, he's the mastermind of Project O, a card game where ownership isn't just a perk, it's the name of the game. But that's not all, because this titan of the tabletop, as you just heard, is also a top 100 parallel player, proving that he's not just a one-trick pony, but a multi-talented maestro of the metaverse. He's the king of the cards, the sultan of the strategies, the emperor of the entertainments, and founder of the future where gaming is owned by the players. Let's give it up for Big Kevin Lambert.
Big? I don't know. I'm a pretty small guy. I think you have to update that to top 50, though, because I was 48 as of just last night on the parallel ladder. So we're moving up in the world.
Let's go. Aftermath Meta does good things for the Project O team, apparently. I'll have to work on that. Thanks, man, for the update. Up next, forget your fancy firewalls and get your bulletproof bunkers, because this next guest is a marketing maverick who leaps into the flames of controversy with a smile. He's not just a marketing guru to uptick, he's also a legendary gladiator of Gamified and a beloved Wolves Down member. Give it up for the man who's not afraid to jump into the flames. It's the golden god, Jerry Singer. I should have put those introductions further apart.
Hey, yeah, you didn't say that with a lot of gusto this time, so I feel a little upset. But fear not, guys. Freddie Mercury in this bitch, ready for Gamified 101.
Freddie Mercury. Oh, I like it. All right, up next, he's the sharpshooting savant who's always shattered records and stolen hearts in shrapnel, and he's the diehard devotee of Gamified and Simplified, who's practically part of the family at this point. But don't let his humble demeanor fool you. That's a misnomer. He's also the jet-setting juggernaut who's conquered the sporting goods scene and the gaming world with a smile and a wave. He's always hyped, he's always hilarious, and he's always here. It's Dub.
Dude, don't boost my ego, dude. You know better out of all freaking people, man. Life is great. I'm just round tripping like thousands of dollars left and right every day. Just keep trading. We don't play games anymore, I guess. I don't freaking know. I only play Balatro.
Just keep clicking, Doug. I got a bunch of my friends addicted to Balatro over the holidays, and I can't tell you what a conflicted feeling it is. Every single day, whenever I see that little thing pop up in the bottom right corner, and I just see like Jasper's playing Balatro, and I know that he should be studying, but instead I gave him an absolutely disgusting gaming addiction all over again. It feels prideful because I knew he would like it, but also I feel terrible because I hope that he has a job in the future. I love you, Jasper. Shout out to Jasper. Anyway, moving on. He's the Twitch Titan who's permanently inked with the Twitch Prime logo, a testament to his transformative touch that turned it into the streaming sensation that it is today. He's the Web3 warlock who's weaving his magic into the metaverse, consulting with cutting-edge companies like the Wanderers and Soulforge Fusion. But don't let his visionary ventures fool you. He's also the vibrant victor who's always ready to share his secrets to success. It's the ace from Amazon. It's Tony V.
Let's go, boys! Excited to be here. Love Gamified. Woo! Also, all that nice shit you said about Dub is a lie.
Love you, man. Good to have you back for another episode. And up next, this military man served 5 years as an explosive ordnance disposal technician, earning several medals, including the esteemed Purple Heart. His passion for blockchain ignited back in 2013. I didn't even know blockchain existed. As an active Bitcoin trader and crypto collector, not one to rest on his laurels, though he co-founded blockchain at Berkeley, San Francisco Blockchain Week, Decrypt Capital, and Marana Ventures. And now he's the co-founder of Game 7 with the self-proclaimed lead janitor at Summon role. He's not taking himself too seriously either. Excuse me. Welcome to the panel from Game 7. It's John Allen.
Hey, what's going on? Glad to be back. My name is John. I like to party. Thank you.
And for that reason, John is invited to the Wolves Den at GDC. Up next, he's the Fortnite fanatic who's fostered 4 world championships with Soar Gaming and 11 esports, the esports emperor, who's elevated gaming to an art form. He's also the intellectual influencer who's illuminated over 100 episodes of these shows between Gamified, Simplified, Rumble, etc., with his insightful commentary, and he's here to do it once again. Welcome back to the panel, the always electrifying, always enlightening, always entertaining. It's Knock.
Another day, another new intro from Sam. I got to get these things printed out. We have to have like 50 of them by this point. Looking forward to it, guys.
Bro, that would be exhausting to go back and find all of them. But I'll give you the master sheet. By all means, you can control F that bad boy to your heart's desire. Up next, this man's a walking paradox, a benevolent bad boy, a kind-hearted kingpin who's not afraid to ruffle a few feathers and drop a few F-bombs along the way. He's the mastermind behind My Angry Yakuza Girlfriend, the game that blends casinos with turn-based combat. The man who's always mastering the art of walking the line between naughty and nice. The man who's always got your back even while calling you a gutless wank. You know who I'm talking about. It's the Titan of Taboo. It's Sinjin.
Oh, what a heartwarming intro, you motherfuckers. Let's have a great time today.
I love you, buddy. And of course, up next, from rocking the stage with the malady of Adam Stokes to revolutionizing bartering with his app Buns, he's a jack of all trades, but now he's trading risks for NFTs and bartering for blockchains after recently launching Wayfair, revolutionizing the blockchain engagement, of course, utilizing AI. He co-founded Parallel, the Web3 game that's sweeping the globe, and he's the character creating, card casting, cliff climbing, Koji Nagata.
Yeah, this guy called it Wayfair. I'm not selling you furniture, Sam. But
Fuck,
yeah,
Wayfinder.
thanks for having me. I appreciate it. I'm excited. I'm excited to be here. Also, side note: Inception is a hell of a movie. Still, what a great piece of cinema.
Wow. What is this, 2015?
Shut up, Jerry.
Top
It's a
10.
great pick.
Top 10 all time. Don't at me. Don't at me in the comments. I don't want to see it. Leaping from the lush depths of the Lizard Labs, it's the lean green emoji slinging machine, weighing it at a whopping 2.4 pounds. He's the pint-sized powerhouse of puns and pocket-sized prince of panels. He's the champion of Oh Baby Cart and the co-host with the most right here on Gamified. Put your claws together for the little lizard legend himself. It's Lems.
GM, it is good to be back. It was a sad day missing episode 100 last week, but hey, we're back for Gamified 101 and here to learn some stuff. And maybe Sam will learn the name for Koji's AI project. That's maybe by the end of the episode.
Dude, you know what always fucks me up is Spike launched Wayfinders, the gaming guild or whatever category he puts them into, and like around the same time. And so I always get in my head of like, oh no, they've got to be different. But then I remember that it's actually just the exact same thing. He chose to co-brand along with a $2 billion company, which is a very interesting decision. I love you, Spike. Good luck out there. Prepare for a cryogenic kickoff with a colossal shout out for our cutting edge comrades, the official chain of Gamified. That's right, it's Avalanche. These Sub-Zero savants recently announced a $100 million AI fund, and they also brought Call of Duty world champion Scump into Off the Grid with his new in-game skin. They're not just the architects of the blockchain blizzard, they're also the Frost Forge foundation for the future of finance. Thank you to Avalanche. And up next, this next product is bending the rules and building bridges between blockchain and glorious gameplay. They're the architects of awesome, the engineers of engagement, and the masterminds making Web3 gaming more wonderful than ever before. Summon is the magic formula that keeps players coming back for more, begging for just one more level, one more quest, and one more epic victory. Hyperplay is the portal for instant Web3 access, but without the funless friction. And don't forget World Builder, the sandbox where in-game economies are engineered to perfection, a playground for Web3 pioneers. These ultimate tools for creators enable game-changing growth, making Web3 gaming more accessible, more engaging, and more fun than ever with the official infrastructure of Gamified. Of course, it's Game 7. And now it's time to blast off with Star Atlas, the spacefaring sensation that's shooting for the stars on Solana. This interstellar icon is a mind-bending spacefaring masterpiece, a cosmic carnival of creativity where you can race, explore, shoot, and customize your way through the most vibrant economy in Web3 gaming with visuals that'll make your eyeballs explode. Star Atlas is piloting Web3 gaming into hyperdrive. And of course, don't forget the Golden Carnival, where they're handing out $4 million in prizes, which should make anybody jump for joy. So a cosmic salute to Star Atlas, the game that's so grand it's out of this world, and of course the official game of Gamified. All right, guys, we're jumping in with a little bit of a Web 2 topic here, just to ease you guys in a little bit. What's the word? Marvel Snap was banned alongside TikTok, and nobody knew it. Even Marvel Snap didn't know it. On Saturday night, players of Marvel Snap opened their apps to shock and awe, learning that their beloved game was currently unavailable in the United States. This is how many found out the game is a ByteDance product, the same company behind TikTok that was likely taken offline as a result of the TikTok ban in the US. It was taken down for about 12 hours, TikTok was, and Marvel Snap for over 2 days, but both are back now. What's the word for Marvel Snap being caught up in the TikTok turbulence? Let's go over to Knock first.
I can't play the game mode. I got to give you 2 words, and it's collateral damage. I think that this was just a byproduct of taking some anger out at Biden. You know what? I'll even give you 3 additional words, and it's kiss the ring. If you saw TikTok and the message that a lot of Americans got when TikTok was banned, they had this really like weird piece in it where it's like, we should
Yes.
thank President Trump for fixing this solution. And 12 hours later, it was resolved. It's just a piece of theater. It was just collateral damage for Marvel Snap. I don't think this was a big deal.
Kiss the ring is a great one. I'll give you some hyphens on that. John Allen, over to you, brother.
Yeah, I mean, Nox using a bunch of words, so I'm going to use 2. Thanks, man, for opening that up. But like for me, it's decentralization matters, right? I think it's like I'm going to take a little bit of a different take because it's like obviously you can talk about it. Okay, like Riot, maybe Riot's going to be the next one and what happens, but it's like really like let's get down to our roots. Like, why the fuck are we here? Like, we're building Web3, right? I'm really glad that millions of people are now waking up to the fact that having a centralized company is really suboptimal. That any way the wind blows, these things could be affected, and all of a sudden you can't do the things that you want. And so like there really is a benefit to decentralization. That's really what we're trying to do here. I think a lot of times that gets abstracted away, but it's like for me, it's like my staking positions, DeFi LP, on-chain game assets, like completely unaffected. I don't care who's president. I don't care what the political climate is, right? So it's like, if it's not an if, it's not an if, but a when. All of these things are going to happen, or negative things are going to happen, and so I would just say prepare accordingly. So I mean, for me, it's just like what we're doing here is important, and if you're not building in that regard, or you don't have that in the back of your head, it's like you should probably reevaluate how you're thinking about stuff.
Great stuff from John Allen. Let's go over to Jerry, then we'll tag in Koji.
Yeah, I was gonna actually say collateral damage also, but I will say instead I'll use some hyphens and say Web3 fixes this. But I do think it was an unfortunate situation. ByteDance was like the publisher behind Marvel Snap through Newverse, which is like ByteDance's gaming arm. I think they got caught in, with TikTok getting banned, it's just become a politicized thing. Um, but one of the interesting things I think, just to get away from like what the facts that happened, is a bunch of people who spent a bunch of money on a game and put a lot of time into something almost got that pulled from them. And I've always been like the person that says like, when people are like, "What if my account gets banned from something?" And I'm always like, "Just don't fucking get banned, dude." Like, I've never been banned from a game before in my life, and I say some crazy shit in trade chat and Baron's chat. Um, but this was through no fault of anybody who's playing the game. Did they potentially lose a lot of time and energy and money into something that that's just become a political issue? And yes, the answer to that is yes. And would those assets being on chain, being on a decentralized database, and still being tradable have been a net gain for some people if this was a long term ban? And the answer to that is also 100% yes. So I think things like this, I've read a few articles. We actually did the Marvel Snap launch. We worked with ByteDance for a long time on that game. Um, there's a lot of people who were just concerned about the time they spent and the money they spent on the game just going to waste. And it doesn't have to be that way. To what John was saying, the stuff that we're doing matters. And I think things like this open people's eyes a little bit at a time. So this is a good thing for Web3, and I think this is a good thing for the ecosystem that we're all in. That hopefully people are opening their eyes up to different solutions that are out there.
Jerry is giving it the old first full circle where this is going to onboard people. You would love to see it if it happens that way. Let's go to Koji, then we'll tag in Tony V.
Man, the word for me is snore. I feel like this whole dance is just like some fucking nonsense, honestly. Like uh, any sort of product like this that's big enough, that's making people enough money, is gonna go on forever. Like people are gonna be able to access it. Like none of this shit is for real. It's just some dance where, yeah, maybe you're pressuring somebody to buy something or sell something, or kiss the ring, acquiesce, do whatever. But like at the end of the day, I mean, it sucks to have your game service interrupted, and I actually feel pretty bad for anyone who's um
working on part of the Marvel Snap team, because that when that happened, somebody was on the phone middle of the night being like, "What the fuck are we gonna do? Everybody get the fuck up!" and like started yelling at people and shit. But like at the end of the day, Marvel Snap's making way too much money. TikTok's making way too much money. None of this stuff is ever gonna get shut down. And anyone who thinks like, "Oh, we might lose access or whatever," like, fucking no. If Chinese people can get through the Great Firewall of China to like look at porn or whatever the fuck they're doing, then like there's no way that you guys are gonna lose your TikTok. You can watch people dance and pretend to be NPCs or whatever the fuck people do on there.
Yo, you Canadians you better chill, dude. You guys might be kissing the ring soon.
I had a bet with my fiance, little side tangent here. She was really stressed about TikTok getting banned, and I was like, "Babe, this is all negotiation tactics. I don't believe it for a second. This is not happening." And so we made a bet. I said, "I'll take you to dinner at this really nice place that's way too expensive if it does in fact get banned. And if it doesn't get banned, you will have to clean my entire office for me because I'm in shambles right now in this place."
Yeah.
And yeah, thanks, Jerry. And so whenever it got banned, it was like, "Oh, you're taking me to dinner," and then it got unbanned like 6 hours later, and I was like, "Okay, so what are we doing here?" And we just settled on where she's gonna clean my office, and also I'm gonna take her to dinner. Let's go over to Tony V.
Yeah, my word is embarrassing. Koji jokes about the great porn firewall of China, but like I don't see a difference between the Chinese government blocking their citizens from accessing the internet and a media company in the U.S. being forced to say we love the president of the United States before they're allowed to operate as a business. Like I just think that it's crazy that we're here and that happened. And I also think it's kind of crazy that there's not more people in this decentralized world that we're in up in arms about it. I think that's really the most telling part, right? Like, if this had been a different political figure or different group doing this, I think that the internet, specifically here on Twitter, would be a lot more alarmed and outraged than I'm currently hearing. And I wouldn't even say I'm alarmed and outraged. I would just say it's like it is one of the most embarrassing things that has happened in like as a United States citizen in my lifetime for sure. Is that like the government shut down a social media platform and didn't put it back up until they said we love the president of the United States. Like that is some communist China shit.
As a Canadian, I can tell you that this is nowhere near the most embarrassing thing your country has done.
Thanks, Koji, for the checks and balances on that one. I appreciate it. Let's go to Kevin Lambert. Fuck, that one took me out.
That was awesome. My word is censorship. It's like this ended up the closest thing to a Web 2 rug. It was unintentional, right? It wasn't like the devs just like left with all the money, but it ended up feeling like, oh wait, you can shut down the thing I use every day. And in the case of Marvel Snap in particular, it's so stupid. Like, how do you possibly explain that, well, there was a national security concern because Galactus is one of their cards and there's some ties, but like there's nothing you can do to make that make sense, and you got to make it make sense. So they got caught up in the splash damage of that, and it was really sad. But it is a nice wake up call, and I agree with Koji that like things that have that level of popularity of like a TikTok, like that transcends censorship. It's going to pop up and people are going to run their own servers, whatever it would take to get that back online immediately. It's going to happen. Although I think the funniest thing that came out of all of this was like Jonah Blake's post where he's like, "Oh crap, Marvel Snap got banned. Project O, this is your one chance. Don't F this up." It was so funny to see that.
Yeah, if you guys were ready to launch in that 48-hour window, brother, holy...
We missed it.
we missed
Rip.
it. Down bad. Let's go to Dub before we move on.
Yeah, I'm really surprised I didn't see this take yet, and it just like has to be out there. The word is "oh snap," pun intended.
But
Nice.
nice work, Dub. Sometimes if nobody takes the low hanging fruit, it's because it's rotten, brother. But we'll move on. Plus or minus the Trump family of coins. Is this a positive or a negative for the Web3 gaming space? Trump coin, Melania coin, Baron coin, Baron coin, I guess in quotes, because we don't know if any of them are legit. But what the hell is going on here? And again, what does it mean for Web3 gaming specifically? Over the weekend, of course, we saw 2 official coins launched by the first family. The Trump coin hit $79 billion valuation, fully diluted, of course. However, sentiments did sour a bit whenever Melania token was launched the next day. So, plus or minus for the first family's cadre of coins and Web3 gaming? Lots of hands on this one. I'm going to tag in John Allen first, then we'll go to Koji.
Oh wow, I get to kick it off. Yeah, I mean, so like for me, it's like I think when Trump launched his coin, it was like, did he get hacked? Like, is it wrong? I mean, I think everybody had a shared experience, right? You know, you see this on Twitter where everybody's like, is this legitimate, right? And then it was kind of like this euphoria where it's like, hey, we're off to the fucking races. Like, you know, this everybody's been saying it's a different political climate. You know, that like the vibes have changed, and it's like truly like the vibes have changed. But I think like when that Melania coin like dropped, you saw the entire market just be like, all right, what the fuck is going on? Like it was just over the top. I mean, like for me, it's like really, I was like, okay, fine, I'm gonna punt some money because it's like, hey, like you know, if Trump's holding billions of dollars in cryptocurrency, he probably pays more attention to it and cares about it more, right? But I think if you see in recent interviews, he's like, I don't really know much about it, and who knows, you know, he says a lot of different things, right? You know, so, but like in general, I mean, I think just like kind of just getting out of the politics aspect of it, right? But it's like I think for me, it's a little concerning because, like, right now, I think it's a net positive, right? It's like we're off to the races. If the president can launch his own meme coin, anybody, like, you know, the gates of the U.S. are open. Like, we want to, like, you know, it just opens a variety of things that we can do. But just in general, I get concerned because we've seen this in Web3. You've seen it outside of Web3, like these cults of personality, right? Like these larger than life personalities. It's really just like a live by the sword, die by the sword. You know, like if it gets rugged or he does something bad or nefarious, it's like right now it's a net positive. But you know, if the coin dumps and everybody knows about it, and that's the singular thing that they're talking about when it comes to crypto, it just puts like a black cloud across everything. So for me, I'm like, yeah, sure, let's ride it as long as it goes, and you know, if he made some money, great. But I'm a little concerned about you know, what the ramifications could be if this doesn't keep going up and to the right.
Yeah, as somebody that is in the process of, Game 7 has a TGE somewhere on the horizon. How do you guys feel about the current state of sort of Web3 gaming and how people are feeling about it? And does this whole incident, or however you want to frame it, over the weekend, does it change the way that you guys feel or the way that you're approaching anything?
Well, I mean, I think I'll answer that directly, but first, I mean, I think there was like this meme that was kind of getting shared around that was put it perfectly, where it was like, you know, you have this guy who's just like sitting at his desk basically, and he's just like, you know, I opened a Cayman entity and have a BVI issuer for the token. I like paid my directors, and I spent like $200,000 on legal documents, and I go through my website, and I didn't have the earn or any of these hot words on there, you know, and I spent years like making sure and getting ready for the TGE, and then like on the other side, it's like Trump just pushing a button like launch a fucking meme coin, right? So it's like for me, it's like okay, like it's frustrating that we're currently here, but it's also nice because for me, I don't want to be pulling up the ladder where it's like, hey, we did all this work. Everybody else should trudge through this unclarity and BS and like adversarial regulatory environment, right? But just in general, I mean, I think like I'll come back again to like I think there's like a vibe shift. You know, I think you know, people are like, okay, like crypto is here to stay. You know, it's like you've had all these ETFs and you have BlackRock continually kind of like hyping up Ethereum, like you have all these like meme coins, and just in general, I think like every time you have a large institution or person, it kind of takes away that like get fired or ruin your kind of brand risk. And I think that's existed for years, you know, like as long as I've been in the space where it's like, you know, in 2013, if you were like, hey, like I'm going all in Bitcoin, like people are like, you're fucking crazy. You know, in 2017, if you're like, hey, I'm going to ICO and decentralize, you know, raise for my company, people are like, what the fuck are you doing? You know, and like 2020, 2021, it's like, hey, I'm just like launching my game on chain. People are like, what the fuck are you doing? Right. And so it's like, just you keep kind of moving the kind of like window, right? Where it's like these things are acceptable, and not only acceptable, maybe these things are optimal. And so for me, it's like it's just a net positive. I think it like kind of a high tide raises all boats, and you know, I'm ready to fucking build.
Great attitude. Looking forward to seeing how it works out for you guys. Let's go over to Koji, then we'll tag in Jerry.
I'm gonna ride the fence a little bit here, and I hate when people do that, but I'm gonna do it because I think it's a positive. In that, I keep saying this on every show. Crime is legal now. Like you basically do whatever the fuck you want, which is probably good for crypto. We have not we, you guys have a president in power who is very crypto forward, which means that he may sway some Canadian policies to be somewhat crypto forward, which is good for business. But like if the question truly is this good for crypto gaming? Uh, it's going to mean more money and more interest in the in crypto at large, which is probably good for us who are making games. But uh, if we're being honest with ourselves, if you want your game to succeed, and not just like the elements of your game, not just like the tokens or the NFTs or whatever that you have on chain as part of your game, but like the actual game itself, you want to change the minds of gamers. And now, is Trump launching a meme coin going to change the mind of gamers? I don't know. It may further entrench people in the opposite direction, and may ultimately like lead to people believing that crypto is more of a scam than they thought it was before, because this guy's just launching some bullshit and getting some money for it and doing absolutely nothing. So is it a net positive for crypto gaming? I'm not sure. But like as somebody who's currently running a project, it's probably good in the short term. Whether or not it shakes out in the long term, I think we have to all be painfully aware of, because like I said, I think our what we should actually be doing is try to change the minds of the people who game now who wouldn't touch Web3. And I don't know necessarily the Trump coin or Millennia coin or name any of his family members. Any of those coins are going to change their minds, no matter what the FDV or whatever so.
Yeah, there's some good observations there. There's a couple of comments I want to get to, but also I want to expand the discussion a little bit. We talked a lot in 2021 about how, well, we have the metaverse. The metaverse was the narrative, and then everything kind of went to shit in 2022, and we lost that narrative, and Facebook, Meta, whatever you want to call it, shut down its metaverse division, and they were spending $10 billion a year, and then they kind of called it a failure, and we lost that narrative sort of as a whole because these games don't look good, they're not fun or enjoyable. And for the last 3 years, I've basically been saying we can do pretty good, but until we get another metaverse sized narrative, it's going to be really, really hard for Web3 gaming to take off. And of course, the metaverse is gaming specific, so that's great for that, this niche. But in particular, it does still sort of give us this ammo as an industry to say, you're afraid of crypto, really? Like the president has a cryptocurrency. Like it's just a very easy talking point that people can sort of wrap their minds around. Real quick, I'm going to go to the comments. Zach D says, if you think Trump token derails your game's ability to grow, you may need to rethink and reanalyze the games that you're building. Good games will find success. Appreciate you, Zach. I agree there. Crystal says, it makes me furious. There are so many awesome, hardworking, brilliant people genuinely building in my orbit, and then this happens. And I think, well, why should they bother? So very different sides of the coin there. Let's go over to Jerry, then we'll tag in Kevin.
Yeah, listen, I think this is a net positive, and it's a plus. I think that's the game mode we're doing, right, Sam? Is it a plus or a minus?
Yeah,
Is that
positive or negative?
Yeah, so it's a positive. But I think this has potential to be a really like catastrophic negative if it doesn't go well. And I think you kind of saw that like everybody got really excited for like a day, and then he launched a Melania coin, and everybody was like, "Oh, I don't know about this anymore." And I think did it was like Trump launching a coin, and when you have like I don't want to make a political statement here, but like we can all say that Trump is probably the closest thing we have to like a mainstream like cult leader in the world, right? And a lot of people I think got excited. I mean, I got like the firefighting world is very conservative and very right wing. If people didn't know that, and I was like one of the few people in crypto. Like I left firefighting because I was doing well in crypto, right? So anytime things happen, I get a million texts from old firefighters who are like, "Hey, what's up here?" And that went through the fucking roof when Trump launched a coin, right? Everybody saw that. And it had this potential to be this like massive, massive positive that I think got washed into like overall just a slight positive so far. But, like, when you have new entrants, people who are net new into something that don't really know what they're getting into, you open up a world of people to just be pissed off and disappointed, and I think that could happen here, and I do get worried about that because, like, it's a meme coin, right? And what we do in gaming is not meme related. I think we're all here saying, like, we're in the a very heavy utility space, and that we want all these tokens to have like economy flow in a game. And that's not at all what Trump is doing. I think it's a meme. We know it has no value, but like we know that. Net new people don't know that. So I think there are a lot of people that could potentially be kind of pissed off and have this turn into a negative. I think the bull case here is like the crypto czar is David Sachs, who like I think Sam and I are probably both big fans of, and he's like staunchly like so pro crypto that I think you'll see a lot of good policies and regulations come from this. But yeah, I mean, I think as it stands right now, we're really only at like a slight positive. And I think for the gaming side of things, what we all do, it just doesn't even matter right now. It's neither a positive or a negative, but it could skew to being more of a negative than a positive, right? I don't think the regular person, the normie that bought this is going to be like, hell yeah, all in on crypto games because of it. Maybe long term, really downstream in 2 years, we might go like, yeah, this was the moment. But I don't think we're for games we're at that yet. It's totally like a wash.
Jerry wants the Trump white paper.
I
Yeah,
do want the Trump white paper.
Jerry believes in trickle down economies for Web3 gaming. Let's go to Kevin Lambert, and then I want to hear from Sinjin.
That was so good.
I think you can just DM Trump, Jerry, and be like, when utility, and he'll probably answer you. So I am in the huge positive, but not for Trump launching a meme coin or for any of that, but for what it means, what's behind all of that. Like, just to comment on what a couple of folks said, like John was like, yeah, doing it right and spending all this time and money versus launching a meme coin, like that is mega frustrating. And as someone as another team that is also doing it right and doing the legal compliance and doing all of that stuff, and the number of sheer hours that I have put into following the legal landscape so that I can make the right recommendations and say, hey, we shouldn't do that. Like, I've spent so much time and energy learning and following and doing that I could have spent just making great user experiences, which I would love to do instead of this. But whatever, it's sunk cost. It is what it is. But I think but those of us building for the long game are still like, it's still applicable. Like, all the do it right and all the things we've learned is they're still going to be, it's still going to play out. But Koji asked, like, is this net positive for Web3 gaming? And I think absolutely long term, because it means a certain amount of affinity for the asset class and the industry that's obvious by the way that he did this, right? And what that means is that we as builders are going to have a nicer canvas upon which to paint our work, right? Like, the regulation is going to be less aggressive, right? It's not going to be as oh, shoot, what's that? Yeah, the bad, the antagonistic. That's the word I was looking for. It's going to be less antagonistic going forward. So that just means like 2 or 3 years from now, we're going to be thinking of like, what is the best user experience to bring all the Web 2 folks over and get them excited about this new class of business models and experiences. And we're going to be able to bring them to life without 1,000 hoops to jump through. Like, and just the fact that a meme coin was launched telegraphs that to me. So I'm super bullish.
Hold on, sorry, I just got to rebut here for a second. Isn't it possible that he's just like, fuck, I just want some money, and this is a quick way to get some money, and like I'm not actually going to follow this up with like sweeping reform? Because like, I mean, anyone who I'm not getting political here, but like he doesn't strike me as like the staunch strategist as far as his like legal
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
right. So like maybe he's just like, yeah, this is I could get a few $1 billion off of this shit,
definitely.
and then like I'll move on to the
That
next
is
thing.
certainly one of the possibilities. A little glass half empty there, but for sure. And we know that there's been a history of like the lack of follow through. But I don't know. I guess I'm going to take the optimistic route and feel like, that some of the things he'll just say to get an audience, to get elected, to get some funds in the bank. But I think deep down there is some, and I'm not political, and I'm not a huge Trump supporter at all. In fact, whatever. But
Well, say it, Kevin.
no, I mean, I would say I'm more on the other side of the scale, except when it comes to financial, on the political scale, like me personally. But it's fine; it doesn't matter. But I respect people on both sides. I have friends on both sides of the spectrum. So like, I can do that. But I trust that this is going to result in some reform, just purely because I think I can see past the superficial, hey, let's get rich, hey, let's get elected. Like, he's past that. He got elected. He's now in office, able to do some things, and there are still things being done. He pardoned Ross Albright. He didn't have to do that. Let's look at the SEC and some other agencies that may have overregulated. He didn't have to do that. Like, that's not for superficial gain necessarily. That seems more like a little bit of follow through to me. So even
Yeah.
there, yeah. Anyway,
There was also a SEC filing for I think 7 new ETFs, all at the same time. Which we'll see if that actually gets carried out. But at least they're attempting to do it for XRP, Trump Coin, Solana, among others. And I see a comment here that I just want to address. Jaxie in the comments says the salty here is too much. LOL. Meme coin or meme tokens have zero effect on Web3 gaming. I intrinsically do not believe that that's true. Anytime $40 billion worth of liquidity is doing anything in our industry, I think it definitely affects all other aspects, from DeFi to gaming to everything else. So it's really not about even the policy and stuff. Of course, we can get into that, but it's really like, okay, we just saw $79 billion of liquidity. Of course, fully diluted value is more like 20 or whatever. $20 billion of liquidity flow to this one thing on this one chain. And now what's going to happen from there? And of course, there's a million different tangents we could go down with that as the starting point. Let's go over to the Titan of Taboo, Sagan Sinjin. Sinjin, is this a positive or a negative specifically for Web3 gaming?
I'd like to say like the advent of nukes, like this is positive with huge potential downside, but like in some ways for Web3 gaming, I agree with Kevin on the long term. Potentially it's quite good, but I'm really aligned with the points. I think they were spot on with John, Jerry, and Koji. Like on the regulatory side, it's extremely positive. What Trump did, if any other company had done this, they would have fucked themselves 100% slam dunk. It's like a US person with a US entity, promoting on a mass social media. And even though he's using the words for entertainment, for supporters, so on and so forth, right? This is exactly what you would not want to do. No one in the regulatory space would ever suggest, in fact, the opposite. And this is how like every single person who's a US based person, who were stupid enough to actually, launch a crypto like project and register as a US entity and just going forward with it, raising funds or so on and so forth, it's a slam dunk, completely get screwed, right? So what he's actually done here is open this massive Pandora's box. And then what does it look like? Does it look like a full-on gambling boom in some ways, like the entire crypto casino's up for grabs and that's where everyone's going to move on? Or on the other side of it, like, does this really allow for full-on exploration? But if the focus is now really on meme coins and the speculative aspect of it, right? It's probably more the latter, right? And so in some ways, the hardcore builders, and this really reduces a lot of the, obstacles for them. But like, you have to also ask, like, who really gets hurt in the long term? Because like before we get to Web3 gaming, which is, a niche of a niche of a niche, right? Like whatever Jared was talking about, the firemen and stuff like that. Like I have like a friend network that's like more blue collar and stuff like that outside from my younger days, but these guys are like contractors, construction guys, and stuff like that, and they're really down to earth. We played rugby together and stuff like this, and they were buying like the meme coins, Dogecoin, and stuff, and then they're asking me like, "Hey, Sinjin, like, what the fuck is up with this? I've lost so much money on this," but but they were in on it, and I was so surprised that they had actually bought this because the common person. The average person is looking for whatever kind of wins they can, but they end up seeing that at the very end. And if you think about it, I'm not sure if this is 100% correct, but the tweets that I'm seeing about like the on-chain data analysis is that a majority of the people who got into Trump, in that first 48 hours were, crypto Twitter, like chads or chumps or however you want to call it, right? Was it really mainstream? So, the other thing about it is that this validates this kind of thesis about, or this direction about investing into meme coins and that attention there. And I just got off a call with a really large crypto fund. He's a personal friend of mine. I just check in with him every once in a while. And he let me know that right now it's absolutely fucking chaos in the market, in the sense that there are no theses that any crypto token fund has right now that's like kind of holding up. So on any given like 3-day cycle, like these funds are up massively or they're fucking down massively. And so like people are just scared shitless. I've never seen my friend who personally he holds, I think, like 90 million US, like full on, like in his pocket, that he's made through DeFi, Summer and all this other shit. I've never seen him stressed out like this before, and he's totally fucking stressed. And giving this validation really on the meme coin side sucks up all that attention. So for Web3 games that are really on that speculative side, looking to break through to the mass market now that it's quote unquote kind of open, how much more difficult is that when the focus and the entrenchment on the kind of narrative is right now on meme coins? But on the regulatory side in the long term, it's very, very good. But like, who do we end up hurting, or who ends up getting hurt, before some of these projects really come to fruition, right? So again, it's like nukes. It's great in some ways, but the potential downside is that we all get fucking wiped out.
Yeah, one more potential wrinkle here before I go through the rest of the hands is there's also the possibility that if we introduce the Bitcoin ETF and then we introduce the Ethereum ETF, okay, that's a lot of liquidity that could potentially essentially get sucked out of traditional markets. Excuse me, someone caught in my throat. We're introducing potentially 7 more ETFs. Sorry, this will have to wait for another day. Let's go to Will's. Will, save me. Will's my
Sam,
boy.
Sam, I can run over and do the Heimlich quickly.
All right, let's go to
How
Knock.
about now?
Oh yeah, Wills, we do hear you, buddy.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, so I think Sinjin's kind of final point of who's getting hurt, I think is the essential thing we need to remember here. Because, like, whether it's a positive or negative, the question I ask myself is, has the game plan changed for Web3 gaming? Has what we need to do been altered in any super meaningful way? And I would argue that the answer is no. Like, okay, so what do we have now? Trump launched a meme coin, and as people are saying, lots of people are getting texts of, "Oh, how do I get into this?" So, like, more people have wallets, and more people own crypto. Okay, that's kind of the baseline. That's a net positive. That makes it easier for them to engage with the games that people are making. But we still need to work on smoothing that UX. I assume buying the Trump coin wasn't the most pleasant UX experience that these people have ever had, and we still need to be focusing on we're looking a lot at the crypto market liquidity and where it is, like how where all of that stuff is moving. I don't think that has a massive effect on the grander vision of what we want Web3 gaming to be, because we want that liquidity to be coming out of the $300 billion that is going into games every year. And that's, I think, where we need to be targeting. And do I think that more financially inclined degens trading on Solana is going to have a drastic effect on the amount of people that want to play off the grid or games like that? No, not necessarily. And where I see kind of the big risk, and where I think what we make of this being a positive or negative is really going to be seen, is how do we respond to this? Do we see more kind of 2022 style DeFi protocols claiming to be games, like oh, play the Trump coin game where you trade Trump and lose a bunch of money? Like, I can see that happening. That's going to be a headline we're going to see in a couple of weeks. And I think that all that will do is take us 3 years back, where people will look, oh, people are just making these trading games that aren't even actually games. Web3 gaming isn't legitimate. That's my fear. But I think all we really need to do is stay the course. More people have wallets. More people are onboarded. Let's take that win and keep working. That's the number one thing that I think needs to happen.
Great take from Wills. Twitter is bugging out a little bit. The hands all disappeared on me. I know I saw Knock, and then I'm just kind of ready to move on from this topic. So I'll tag in Knock, and then we're going to go to the next one.
Yeah, grew up with a saying,
rules for thee, not for me. And I think that that's probably a little bit of what we're seeing here. I think anyone who believes that Trump launching a meme coin is any indication of wide sweeping reform is probably equally as ill informed as the people who believed he was going to mention Bitcoin on his inauguration speech. I think that we started off with a moment that was, this is incredible. This might actually be the start of something. And less than 24 hours later, Melania drops, and it turned really quickly to, this might be the next Trump Taj Mahal or Trump steaks or Trump casinos, a long list of items that he's launched, made a bunch of money, and disappeared from. So I think it's like it's a concerning time in the market. I think this ends up being a net positive, but right now what is introduced is a significant amount of chop. The market is incredibly volatile right now. You're literally seeing 10 to 15 billion dollar swings in FDV on coins like Trump, and that is not in like a good environment to deploy capital. So a lot of the smart traders, what they're doing right now is sitting on their hands, or they're rotating capital into things that they liked a week ago at 100% higher prices, and they're purchasing those things. But they're not incredibly excited about the opportunity that Trump has brought, because they've either missed it, they've either cashed out, and they feel good about it, or just in general, they're not willing to deploy capital into a market where at literally any moment in time over the course of the next, let's call it week or two, as we start to see hopefully some of these things play out on from the presidential side, the market could just nuke. And I think people are scared right now. Long term, I'm hopeful that this is a sign and this is indicative of change that will be happening in the US regulatory environment, because a lot of places, Canada included where I live, tends to sort of follow suit with whatever the US does, right? If the US is going to allow this, then a whole bunch of other markets globally will allow, maybe some more lenient regulation around crypto, launching tokens, what that means for businesses. I think all of that is a positive, but I think that there's an equal chance that Trump announces a Trump and Melania reserve, Federal Reserve, and absolutely fucking nukes the entire market for 6 months. I think when you're playing with something this unpredictable, you have to be prepared for that unpredictability. I'm hopeful that this is good long term. I'm cautiously optimistic, but I really believe that there's a 50-50 chance that within the next 7 days, we get wide sweeping reform and everybody, it's open season in the US, and that's fucking great for everybody. Or we see that Trump Federal Reserve, and that's just max fucking chaos. And I really deeply believe they've got an equal chance of happening.
Great takes, Knock. Appreciate everybody for being able to handle that topic without getting too in the weeds, as political topics sometimes can get. Of course, we're about Web3 gaming here. Let's move on. Big deal, little deal, no deal. Tibia integrates cryptocurrency into their 27-year-old MMORPG. Tibia might be 27 years old, but stats show there's still 2.6 million players with approximately 32,000 DAUs. They launched Tibia token on BNB chain, of course, where all the most legitimate projects always launch, and it'll be exchangeable one-to-one with Tibia coins, the premium in-game currency. Is this the right approach, and should more old games, yes, I'm going to say it, Knock, I'm sorry in advance, like RuneScape, follow suit? Or do you think this is just a way to try to bring some attention back to an aging game that isn't really attracting new players anymore? Big deal, little deal, or no deal? Tibia integrating cryptocurrency. Oh, Knock, I know you want to go so bad. I'm going to send it to Dub, and then we're going to go to Koji. I'm going to make him wait for it.
Damn right we are. Dude, it's a huge deal, and it's for both the bad reason and the good reason you put. Like, this is everything I've been fucking yelling about. Like, games are going to be adding on Web3 components to their thing so they can fucking survive. OSRS is going to die in a decade or 20 years from now if they don't. And that's just the way it's going to be, no matter what Nox says following this up. So off to you, Koji.
He's only got to wait 20
I'm
years for
gonna
old school RuneScape to finally be outdated. Koji, go ahead.
I'm gonna channel my inner Sinjin here and just say that I know that a bunch of you peons are gonna say that it's a big fucking deal. How many of you guys are playing that Warcraft where you can trade your shit with crypto that we talked about
It's
like weeks
still
ago?
still
You
in
guys
beta.
are. Most people probably aren't watching or listening to this because they're too busy playing Warcraft,
It's
right? Or
in
whatever the
beta.
fuck.
It's
No,
still closed, Koji.
sure, sure. Yeah, make excuses, Sam. Make excuses. Nobody cares about this. Nobody cares about this. I think that like if we're actually gonna be in this space and innovate, like
you got to design with crypto in mind, and to just like be like, oh, we're gonna launch a token because it's token season. Seems like nonsense to me. But I will say to my previous point that if it brings more gamers, more Web 2 people who are skeptical about crypto into crypto, I'm all for it. Like make it rain tokens. Like let StarCraft launch a token or whatever, and let's see how many people come in and play.
I would respond to what you just did, Koji, if I wasn't still shook that like 15 minutes ago Sinjin referred to Dogecoin as like Dogecoin or something. I just can't get over it. Zach D in the comments says Tibia would have success if Ravenquest, excuse me, wasn't already here. He says it's the same game. Interesting. All right, let's go over to Knock. All right, Knock, let us hear it.
For the love of God, stop touching these fucking games. I actually wanted to share something that's crazy. For the first time in like 25 years, I've actually canceled my OSRS membership. RuneScape recently was purchased by VC fund or some fucking private equity bullshit. And they're in the process of like wildly changing fee structures, gating things behind certain accounts, special worlds. I think anytime you touch a game that is 25 years old, like Tibia, like OSRS, like WoW, and you implement mechanics that are like at its core the antithesis of what people and the players want, I think you're going to run into friction. To me, there's really only two options. It's the beginning of insane greed, which we saw with RuneScape in 2012 with the evolution of combat, which is why old school RuneScape even exists today, because it had to fork off because half of its fucking player base died because of this decision. But anytime you see wide sweeping changes to games that are this old, you're going to have an insane amount of thrash. So there's only two options for Tibia. Either they've lost their fucking minds and they're willing to risk 2.6 million players, or this is a little bit of a death knell and it's a hope that they can turn things around through some Web3 grift and save the product. I think when you're looking at teams like OSRS, they're changing these prices because some private equity firm is not happy with how much money it's already bringing in, and they want to really proceed with what I'll call shitification of the game by delivering things like microtransactions and all kinds of bullshit. So I would love for MMOs to stay the fuck away if you're an existing 25-year MMO. I think anybody who believes games like RuneScape or WoW should implement cryptocurrency has never fucking played those games, because you realize real quickly how deep and how intricate those economies are. And if you start throwing tokenized assets on top of those economies, things will fall apart. For the most part, they barely even fucking work to begin with. The RuneScape ecosystem and the economy has been like completely fucked like 5 or 6 times over the last decade alone, and that's without cryptocurrency involved in any capacity. I think if you're building an MMO, you build it from the ground up, you build it with intention, you plan to have tokenized assets within that game, but you should not just throw tokenization onto living, breathing organisms like actual long-standing MMOs. I fucking hate this.
Wow. Knock calls it a grift. I didn't see that one coming. All right, John Allen, I'm tagging you, brother. I know you have a few things to say on this one too.
Yeah, I mean, completely unbiased take here, right? Obviously, working with the Market Wars team, but I mean, I think for me, it's like let's get the initial question was like Tibia. For me, it's like they launched about 20 back in October. And like 3 months later, people are kind of like it's hitting the marketing cycle, and people are talking about it. Like for me, it's like a non-starter. I don't really know why we're talking about this. Like it's kind of a dead-ish title, right? That's trying to maybe do something, probably just a cash grab from like yeah. Anyway, but I mean, for me, it's like. I want to kind of address some of the points like Koji and not kind of like said, right? Because it's like I think me, I was a previous WoW addict. I had 6 months time played in 12 months. I was averaging 12 hours a day, 7 days a week. And so for me, it's like
Holy.
first and foremost, right? Like let's be honest, like nostalgia's in. Like I don't know if many of you've seen it, but it's like there's so many old things coming back because people fucking love them. And I think one of it is because hey, people get older and they have more time or they have money to do the things that they used to do. But I think the other piece of it is that like most of the current games and products and like just games in Web 2 and Web 3, let's be honest, they're complete trash. And people just want to play games that they love, right? And so it's like, for me, it's like, when the team, the Mark Wars team came to Game 7, said they wanted to build a WoW mod, I was really skeptical. So I don't think that that's unfair to be skeptical, right? Because I think there's a variety of reasons why you want to do it. And they're like, especially in the early kind of like, crypto gaming days, there were a lot of people who were just like, hey, I just want to copy shit, just like shove a token in and just like make some money, right? And it was a bunch of cash grabs. So I get that gut reaction. I get that visceral reaction. But when you really start to like parse through it, what the team wants to do is they want to kind of remove the noise. I think you have the vast majority of Web3 games are wildly unsuccessful. That's maybe not different from Web2. I think we talked about that on a previous call, right? But it's like, why? Is it just a bad game? Or is it UX, Web3, adding all the Web3 aspects into it? And so if you start with a good game, a beloved game, a game that if you see OnlyFangs, and like all these kind of like hardcore servers and stuff, like it's still hype. People fucking love it. Like I still love it, right? So if you remove that, you start with a good game, you remove half of that question where you can singularly focus on the Web3 aspects of it and be like, is Web3 the problem, right? And I think the other piece is MMOs, kind of like what Nox said, they're arguably like, and to my opinion, the most complex game type. And I think like really trying to build it in a fully Web3 way, it's an incredible and worthwhile challenge. A lot of people are just saying, hey, I have some NFTs on chain, I just have some base stuff. But like when you take a economy like World of Warcraft and an economy like MMOs, and to your point, Nog, it's fucking hard. These things are already broken. I mean, like looking through the code base of these things, it's kind of like that meme where it's like, how do you build this? Like, we don't know anymore. It's like this old magic, really, that's like holding all this shit together, right? But for me, it's like if you can make it work, I just think it's an incredibly challenging and worthwhile endeavor. Like I'm just really excited to see, because like if you start from the top of market, what's the absolute hardest thing you could think to bring on chain and try to execute that vision? Even if you only get there half the way, I think that you're doing a better service to the Web3 industry than 99% of the games right now, who are just trying to start in the most simplest thing, the most like least disruptive thing to like get it to be Web3, as opposed to like attacking a massive problem head on that people are like, you can't fucking do this, it's gonna break. I like to work with people who are like, I want to work on the impossible. So yeah, that's my take.
Yeah, great stuff, John. Real quick reminder: the game mode here is big deal, little deal, no deal. I think John would have given it no deal, given his lack of desire to have it be a topic. Let's go to Knock one more time. I saw the hand pop up. I want to give him a chance to speak back to your point, and then we'll keep working through the hands.
Yeah, I'll say big deal and just in a negative sense. But just one additional piece of context to what I said prior. I don't want what I said to discourage people from building MMOs in the space. I think MMOs in large, if built well, if built with intention in crypto, have the ability to do something that we've literally never seen in the space and solve a lot of the issues that do exist in traditional MMOs. I think when you're talking about games like Tibia, like WoW, like RuneScape, you have games where even the people who are actively building those products don't know how a lot of the shit in that game even works. RuneScape devs talk about this all the time. A lot of that code is worse than fucking spaghetti code. It's shit that they found on some guy's laptop that they spun up to create a port of a version from a game from 5 years prior to when it launched, and it's literally just held together by a fucking dream. And I think when you implement all these additional layers of complexity, you open up so much room for error in these existing ecosystems that we can lose these magical titles like WoW, like RuneScape, the games that we grew up playing that we love and that still have diehard hundreds of thousands of people playing it today. I don't want those touched in any capacity. That doesn't mean I don't want an MMO on chain. I absolutely do. I think it would be fucking incredible to be part of the creation or play a game from day one on chain and see how that evolves over time. I just think that some of these legacy titles barely function as is, and adding crypto to that doesn't solve any problems. It just introduces like 15 new ones.
Great point. Let's move on. Let's go to Kevin Lambert, and then we'll tag in Sinjin.
Thanks, man. Wow, I agree with so many of the comments that were said here and have a couple of interesting takes. John, by the way, that's an impressive slash played on World of Warcraft. I think I might have like been in your ballpark back in the day when I was hardcore, but man, I've since moved on from that, but that was awesome. The other thing that John said that resonated with me was like, old things coming back, the nostalgia. I mean, look at the remakes that we're seeing out there today, right? Like Final Fantasy remake, a lot of remakes are out there, are awesome. And some of them are remasters and some of them are remakes. I tend to prefer remakes, but even a remaster is good. And I also totally resonate with the comment, like, you know, what, hey, the line of thinking, what if we started with a great game and then see if we can crack Web3 and remove the variable of what, you know, well, it's also a shitty game. Let's at least start with a known good and see if we can crack that. The challenge, though, is when you just add Web3 to an existing game that had zero intent to and design to this is going to get a little academic game designer snob, but bear with me. It's like when you didn't intend for those systems and those pieces to be there when you originally put together the product and the experience, sometimes just adding that and not changing anything else is in fact most times it's not going to work. Like, when was the last time that you guys saw a well-known game that everybody loves add a trendy flavor of anything and then seen it succeed long term? Like, I'm racking my brain trying to think of anything, and like, other than like, hey, we made it HD and that's a pure value add, it's hard for me to find that at like the experience level. Like, maybe with the concept of experiential ownership, which I love talking about. You know, why do we want to own our stuff that goes above and beyond just selling it for profit? You know, if we crack that, then I could see games saying like, "Ooh, I can add a little peppering and flavoring of that to our experience without changing it, and it won't matter that we didn't think about that originally because it's a pure additive experience." If you have that, I think it's really interesting. But if it's just like, hey, let's flavor the game with crypto tokens and Web3 economy, and that was not in the initial design, I give it like a 5% chance of succeeding because it's just so hard to do that for all of the reasons that Knock mentioned on what people expect, to like good luck not having the whole thing fall over. But if you can find a value add way to do that, or even do a remake of the game that then incorporates that natively into the design, I think it could be good, and I'm optimistic. And I think that will happen as we all here in this room start to crack the Web3 code with some great experiences. I totally expect a bunch of existing games to piggyback on those, and some will succeed and where their value adds, and some will fail because they wrecked their game. So big deal, little deal, no deal. I'll say little deal because it's kind of a mix.
Sinjin, what are you giving this big deal, little deal, no deal?
Yeah, no deal, like kind of train wreck waiting to happen, kind of thing like that. I mean, you know, for this space already, Koji's my leading MVP. I think Knock killed it. I think Kevin and John had really good takes here. But like, number one, like BNB chain, like fucking laugh my ass off, like Jesus Christ. Okay, so you know, that's the whole thing. I mean, everyone's kind of touched on it, but the concept seems good. Okay, you get a successful Web 2 game, and then you add in a token. And then it just shows me like you don't fucking understand what the fuck you're talking about as a game designer. You know, and gamers, like, they get it seems right, but like, yeah, you're not a game designer. And this is where the huge fucking divide is. Like back in the day, like when you had the advent of like free to play, and I've used this analogy before, this story before, and EA had this one game that my producer was working on, and then they basically said, "Okay, look." And at that time, you know, you were selling the apps for like 99 cents or whatever like that. They said, "Okay, free to play's in, let's change it." And the devs are like, "What?" Right? And the issue is that like how much design and understanding, even if you understand what that is, to convert a game from one model to the other, because it's all this correlated functionality. So like if you want people to speed up build times to deposit, then you have to actually change the gameplay to actually do that, so that there's that element of needing to speed up the game because it matters. You just can't just add that functionality in and expect it to work because it's not really built into the core gameplay. So like for Web3, like you have a token, you need a scaling mechanism to burn it or something to manage it. Like how fucking hard that is, like to do that in gameplay when there wasn't one. Because right now for these MMOs and stuff like that, at the end of the day, where their like saving grace has always been when the economy gets fucked up is that they can artificially start to price or silo tokens or, you know, the economy in some way and set something artificially, which isn't really complex. right? It's like a kind of a stopgap measure that like allows them to say, hey, okay, this is what it is, and that's it. And it doesn't affect the gameplay. In fact, it's like kind of counter to whatever the gameplay's trying to do, to exploit like oversupply of like in-game token or whatever like that. But that's like not a complex solution. And then you're going to a mass complexity in terms of like what you need to actually implement. So like it's just not going to work. Like games need to be natively developed this way for the tokens, or it's just simply not going to work in a really significant way where that token does really have an impact on the game.
Let's go to Will's, then I'm going to move on from this topic.
Yeah, I think to a lot of people's points, why are we going after to games that people already care about? I think that there's a really exciting opportunity because I think Web3 gaming has a lore problem. I think a lot of the games that I see, that the gameplay is great, the mechanics are good, the Web3 elements are all there, but the universe around the game that makes you care about it, that makes you fall in love with the setting, and makes everything kind of feel connected, lacks in a lot of different in a lot of games that we have. And I think that that's something that Web2 gaming has been focusing on for a long time. And there are a lot of great universes and stories out there that may not have hit the mark on the first try around. And as people have been alluding to, people get pissed off when you touch stuff that they already like, and when there's already a sentiment around. Why are we going after these already established games when we can take games that may not have hit the surge when they released, and create new realms within those IPs? So I think, I don't know, I like to answer the question, I think this is a little deal, if any, because we haven't seen this kind of like comeuppance of like an already successful title adding in a new feature do well. But there's a lot of IPs out there, there's a lot of great ideas out there. Let's use what's already out there to our advantage, because we've got financialization and gameplay and all of those mechanics down. Let's go get some good lore. Let's get people to care about the universes that we're building enough to spend money on them and engage with the financialization in a way that they care about.
Great take from Wills. There's also an awesome comment from Zach D. Again, Dragoon putting in work down there. He says, one thing I'd note is whenever EVE Online said they were coming to Web3, it was big and massive and everyone was bullish. This is the same overall concept, but the opinions are very different. I think the game itself does matter. Some games can slap on Web3, others can't. Slightly different example there because EVE Online, I believe, is completely sort of rebuilding the game from my understanding, or at least forking it to be a version with crypto and another without. So not a perfect one-to-one there. However, the point is a good one. We're just about to talk about Abstract Chain, which I'm really excited to dig into. But real quick, as we're midway through our magnificent mission here, let's make a maneuver to thank our mates over at Avalanche. They're the Sub-Zero superheroes, ensuring our digital deeds are as smooth and safe as a snowboarder on fresh powder. Whether you're dodging bullets in the firefights of Off the Grid or scaling magical peaks in MapleStory, Avalanche is the summit where Web3 gaming truly shines. Thank you to Avalanche as the official game, or official chain of Gamified. I'm in shambles over here today, guys. Up next, Game 7 Nation, a gaming haven where players have the power. Did you know they've got 175,000 monthly active Mavericks making moves on the Game 7 portal? They also have 400,000 citizen avatars on chain, and they've given away over $1 million in the last year or so. With Hyperplay as your highway to hassle-free game discovery experiences and World Builder whipping your world into wealth-generating wonderlands, Game 7 is the real MVP. And don't forget their ginormous groundbreaking MetaMask partnership opening the gates to 30 million global users. Thanks to our official infrastructure, it's Game 7. And of course, gamers, you got to stash those snacks and turn up the volume because Star Atlas released yet another host of pure cinema, which you can see pinned up here at the top of the space. With gameplay videos showing off ships, cities, skylines, and shooters, they're already over 3% of Solana's daily transaction volume, with Sage and so many more ways to engage coming this year in 2025. Thank you to Star Atlas, the official game of Gamified, setting the standard for space age excellence, improving that the universe the players will really truly rule the day. Jesus, I'm actually in shambles. Okay, we're moving on to Abstract Chain. Abstract, is it Blast 2.0? Will Abstract have what it takes to actually maintain momentum and avoid fading into irrelevance? This time last year, Blast and Pac-Man were the talk of the town. You couldn't scroll the timeline without seeing posts about gold allocations and maximizing exposure to the Blast token. But post TGE, it lost mindshare completely, and it seems like nobody really cares about it anymore. Will Abstract actually be different, or is this just another airdrop farm that people will soon forget about? Agree or disagree? Abstract is Blast in 2025. I'm going to stick you guys on this game mode. You have to say, I agree or disagree that it is Blast. Disagree means Abstract to the moon, whatever. Disagree means, whatever. Okay, Sinjin, over to you, buddy.
Yeah, no, I disagree. I think the way that they're gonna go is the way that Sui went. I mean, like, I fucking don't know what Sui's used for, and I've actually met Evan, one of the founders, and their founding team when they had first launched and stuff like that. But their coin and their token and their chain is thriving on the market. And when I went through the Abstract website, okay, it was really well done, really professionally well done. You wouldn't think it was a Pudgy Penguin kind of project. It's not a meme project. It's not a flash in the pan thing. If you look at that video style is used by like super high end infrastructure level VCs where they do this cut of videos. Okay, so like if you've invested in like underground like submarine cable lines and like fucking massive, that's the type of video that the VCs make for that particular area and that for that scale to really give them that sense of this is a massive, grandiose, like world-changing thing. And you go through the website, you go through all the documentation and stuff like that, which I did. And you wouldn't think it was done by Pudgies or a meme thing or whatever like that. And so I think the greatest strength of Luca is that he understands like where the audience is at and what his like kind of retail or whatever objective is at the moment for that particular stage. And I think in some ways though, is he going to overreach this time in terms of like what the actual output of the chain will be, as a layer two? Probably yes, because it's a really fucking difficult thing. But in terms of like the market sentiment and the market positioning, do I think he has it spot on for longevity? Or at least like, again, something like Sui or Aptos, like what the fuck are they doing? Like I have fucking no idea. But like in terms of like where the market sentiment is at, like they're very well positioned. So that's what I feel about them.
Great take, Sinjin. Let's tag in Big Lems. It's been a while since I heard from my boy.
Yeah, I'm gonna say disagree, but with the caveat where, yeah, I think like I'll agree with a lot of what Sinjin said, and I think they're built on stronger foundations here, right? Like, when we looked at Blast last year, there was Blur as a marketplace, which had come and taken a massive amount of market share away from OpenSea and had this incentive program, which love it or hate it, it kind of had some fun with NFTs, but there's a lot stronger foundation when we look at Abstract, right? The Pudgies team acquired Frame, who are already going to build a chain, and they have Saigar, who's like a really, really strong dev building things out there. And then you have all the marketing background of like all the Pudgies guys. Do I think it's overhyped right now and that they're going to lose some mindshare post TGE? Yes, because like with most products, when there's like a pre TGE and there's some marketing campaigns, and then there's like they just rolled out the XP, which looks like it's got some kind of analogous thing to Blast Gold, which is not bad in itself. It's just like their incentive program, and they'll lose some of that mind share probably post TGE. But I think they definitely have a lot longer staying power. Like like shout out ICOBs, who's like the constant like bull on Blast coming back. But most people have sort of given up on that dream and on Blast, and it's kind of a ghost town compared to what it was 12 months ago. But I think we'll see Abstract probably stick around a lot longer. They seem to be a lot more strategic as well with the way they're rolling out. They're getting a lot of these dApps and people ready at launch so that there's going to be a lot of stuff right off the bat. So I think with all that and with their positioning themselves, like with these on-chain games, I think there's going to be a lot more stickiness because of there's things to do for users. And so we'll see how it all pans out. I do think it's overhyped probably a bit, and that's fine. Like that's kind of how we do things in Web3. But as a whole, I do see Abstract sticking around for the long haul.
I want to go over to John Allen here. John Allen, agree or disagree with the statement that Abstract is just Blast 2.0 of this cycle.
Yeah, I mean, hard to disagree. I mean, I think just like the comparison is crazy to me that it's even kind of being made, but you know, it's a provocative question. So I see you, I see you. You know, I think in general, I mean, like Michael Lee, like one of the co-founders, like I've known him for a while, like when he was previously at ZK Sync, and then right when he hopped over from Blizzard, just an incredible guy, and he's just I've known him for so long, and he's always been obsessed with bringing Web3s to like mass market consumers. Like that has been his shtick, like the entire time I've known him. So it's not like he's like, you know, trying to chase trends, right? You know, for me, it's like Blast was really an exercise in TVL and farming the community with hype. You know, it's there wasn't a lot of substance that I saw, right? There was a lot of hype and excitement, but I didn't really see it. Whereas like Abstract, you know, really hyper focused on consumer apps, building infra to make things easier with like a hyper focus on UX. I think like, you know, it's kind of mentioned previously, like Cygar, right? But like if any of you haven't checked out the wallet demo that he posted, it's incredible stuff. Like, you know, I think that's the direction that a lot of these things are headed. And anyone who's building a game right now knows that that onboarding and wallet and the UX is like such a sticking point for onboarding people. And they're really putting in the work to actually make that happen. And I think it's kind of interesting too, because I mean, the rest of you like Twitter degenerates, I'm sure have seen kind of like the digital riot going on around the Ethereum Foundation, right? Leadership. And I think it's for good reason. Like, you know, dApps and consumer products are where we need to focus a ton more energy. Like, infra is important, but I think there needs to be like literally a riot and being like, we need to build dApps. We need to focus on dApps. We need to focus on UX. You need to get out of this echo chamber where it's like, let's scale things. Let's focus on infra. Not because we shouldn't stop paying attention to those, but I think like we really need to shake things up to have things a little bit more balanced. So I think in general, like, you know, Abstract is kind of skating where the puck is going. They have been for a while, and now it's kind of meeting the stick. And just kind of a note in general, I think it's also kind of a bit refreshing. You know, I just a bit of a grievance on my side is like I think ZK Sync arguably has like the best tech, but you know probably the worst BD in the space. A little bit of a spicy take, but you know I think Abstract is really furthering that tech, and they're actually working with people to build consumer apps. So I'm really stoked for what they're doing, and I think they're adding value to the space. And I'm taking notes on a lot of the stuff that they're posting. So I think it's great. I never took notes on Blast, but yeah, my 2 cents.
The only thing I took out notes on from Blast was Blast Gold. I thought that was a really cool way to encourage developers to give back to their community. I thought it was a good system. Jerry, over to you, buddy.
Yeah, I'm gonna also hard disagree. I think when Blast came, it was just like a continuation of things that happened with Blur, and I think everybody was like, "Oh, I miss Blur, so like I get to go to Blast is like the thing now." And like I don't think any of us really, when we look back at that time, thought we love Blast for the tech. I think we loved Blast for the fun that it brought to crypto, and like I think gold was a big part of that. But it it was really great at capturing attention from like the everyday crypto user. But I think there was a big difference between what Blast is doing and what Abstract is doing on like the dApp and like developer level. Because I what I'm seeing from a lot of builders is that they are actually excited about the attention that abstract can bring, but there's a really big belief that abstract as a chain and on a technical level can be a solution to some of the problems that they've had. And so I think for that reason, abstract is here to stay for a little bit longer. I don't think that like Blast has really any chance of coming back, sadly. Um, but I think they're a little bit different in just in that way, right? It is I think people were in Blast for just the token and the excitement of like what that could have been, whereas Abstract just to me seems like there's people who were actually believe in that ecosystem long term, whereas like I think we all were trying to convince ourselves about Blast and that it was going to be around for long term, but really it was a continuation of like Pac-Man being able to capture attention and wanting to capitalize on that and feeling like you missed Blur, so like Blast is the place to be now. Whereas yeah, I think Abstract is actually absolutely going to have staying power. Obviously it's going to dip after the token launch, but I don't think it's going to be like they're not going to disappear. I think this is a chain that's going to be around for a very long time.
Yeah, it did feel like we were just kind of scraping for something to like give us entertainment, something to speculate on, etc. Whenever Blast was around, now it almost feels oversaturated with Anime Chain and Barachain also coming in the same week after the largest meme launch of all time. Let's go over to Dub, then we'll tag in Kevin.
Yeah, I agree with everyone's disagreement, especially after rotating all my Trump profits and top blasting all of these different game NFTs. that are hinting at an abstract whatever. Shout out to Sugartown on recently doing that. And like that's the main difference for me. Like when I was looking at Blast and when all that was popping off, it was like, oh, okay, Wolf Game's going to be on there, and it's 2 ETH to get in, so go do that. And I was like, nah, I don't have that. And now there's like tons of games and ways to get in and free ways to get in, and they have good onboarding. And like, I've been really impressed by Duper and 77-bit and Vibes and all these things. And I feel like I have a clear path of getting rewarded for my gameplay through this XP, which is going to be airdropping me fucking tokens. Because if it doesn't, like, why the hell are we here? And like, it's just a very clear offer for the gamers and the degenerate gamers. So that's why I'm pretty excited about the whole thing.
If it doesn't airdrop me, why the fuck are we here? Let's go over to Kevin Lambert.
Can we get that quote on a T-shirt? I need to wing that to GDC this year. That's awesome, Dub. Yeah, I'll go status quo on this one. Disagree, not a blast. The reason though that I see it that way is really found in the DNA of the two organizations. I see Blast as like super degen DNA, hardcore Web3. Let's tickle the bones of our profit motivated individuals with good marketing and experiences to get to get your Vinnies excited, if you will. Whereas when I look over at Abstract, I see professionalism, I see some doxed team members, and I see product DNA rather than like, marketing and, Vinny DNA. So already there's a difference in the core of these two organizations, and that is showing, I think, in the chains and their visions and everything. And so it's going to play out differently purely because it has to, because of that. I think you can always find a lot of alpha when you look at the DNA of these studios, like who's on the executive team, where do they come from, and when push comes to shove and they have to make really hard decisions, which way are they going to lean? Well, if they're biz marketing folks, they're going to lean this way. If they're art folks, they're going to lean into the visuals, So you can tell a lot just by looking at who is at the top of these studios and what they, where they're from.
Yeah, good point. Sometimes you have to zoom out a little bit. Koji, speaking of people with weird backgrounds now in video games, over to you, buddy.
Yeah. To everyone who went before me, I'm just gonna say well said. And no offense, because I'm gonna lump myself into this. I'm just gonna be honest, but we are all so fucking full of shit. It's ridiculous, man. When the whole like blur blasting was happening, we were like, everyone was like fucking sucking the dick, being like, "Oh, so innovative! What an amazing product! Just giving the degens what they want. These guys are fucking geniuses. We should all follow in these footsteps. Here's the playbook. Blah 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 blah." And right now we're all like, oh no, this is so different. These guys are gonna do and look, I don't know what they're gonna do. And I'm not saying that it's not different, but what I'm saying is like we see a potential upside here and we don't see an upside there anymore. So we're like, oh, these guys have it different. You know why? Because I'm gonna get in early. I'm gonna make some money. So they definitely have it different. Right? No one knows fucking anything. It could be the next biggest thing. It could crash and burn tomorrow, and it's all just fucking conjecture. But we think we can make some money off of it, so we're like, oh, maybe these guys have it right. And like hopefully we all do make money off of it, but it's all just nonsense, man. We all know it's nonsense. Let's just be honest
Koji's
here.
T-shirt is gonna say, "This time it's different." #pump my bags.
This time it's different. Famous last words. Knock, over to you before we move on, bud.
Koji took the words out of my mouth. I think that this is listen. I do believe that abstract will be different, but that's not because of the social or the go to market. It's significantly heavily weighs on the fact that I believe in Luca and the vision, and people like Saigar that are on that team are people that we all look up to and believe in this space as industry leaders. So those are the types of people that you want to get behind. But like they're running the playbook perfectly. This is the Blast playbook. They've captured all of the attention in the ecosystem. They had Pengu, then they've parlayed Pengu into the abstract launch. It's kind of connected, but it's not connected. They brought in people like Finn who really understand how to play the marketing game in this space. They are executing a masterclass in a similar way to what Blast did and Blur did when they launched. The only difference here is that I believe in this team a lot more
than the absolute no belief I had in that team. I think that this is a very similar playbook, but we should be excited about Abstract because they really deeply care about the ecosystem with a ton of them, and you've seen their work in the space. Saigar is one of the most well-respected devs in the entire ecosystem. Luca has absolutely dominated Web3 over the course of the last 2 or 3 years. These are the types of people you want to see succeed. But yeah, the go-to-market strategy is a perfectly executed playbook from what we saw with Blast.
I'm going to tag in Lems real quick before we move on.
All right, I'll put my hand up and say I thought Pac-Man would do more. I feel like, to be fair, he had not massive opportunity. They had massive mind share, and they squandered it. But hey, like we had no crystal ball here, so it was more like just looking at it and saying what could happen. And there was big opportunity. They had big attention, but then they totally fumbled the bag. But to Knock's point, like way, way, way more conviction in the team, like what Abstract have and everyone behind it in what they're executing here. That hey, we don't know how this will all play out as well, but I would feel way, way, way more confident than what happened with Blast.
Great takes across the board. Appreciate Koji and Lems for being willing to take the other side. I too thought that Blast would have at least a little bit more staying power, especially with how dominant they were in the narrative for a while there. Felt like, oh, you give these guys like a year or two to, keep building and have interesting dApps created, and you incentivize a bunch of people. And then, like, I bet the experience will actually be pretty good over there in a little while. But to maybe Koji's point, maybe we don't care about the experience. We just care about how much we can farm it for an airdrop. And so I don't even know what the experiences look like over there. We're moving on. Bigger deal, okay? Uh, First off, we originally had Rumble Kongs moving into Ronin on this subject. I don't think anybody's going to take that, so I'm going to trim it out, okay? Bigger deal. Jeremy Horn shares a statement on Exterio, and really the big part of that statement was Overworld having their development paused, which was a big sort of shot out of left field, for my opinion. And then Off the Grid adds their second major influencer skin with Scump. First off, excuse me. First was Ninja. This time Scump, the Call of Duty pro that won the Call of Duty World Championship a little while back, now in the game. Bigger deal between those two topics, kind of a negative and a positive there. Which one are you feeling? Dub has the hand up first.
Yeah, sorry. The bigger deal was actually the Rumble Kongs one. Off the Grid, despite the announcement, doesn't have more DAU than Shatterline, what appears. And, Overworld, we already packed our bags a while ago on that one. So, yeah, good on you, Rumble Kongs.
Damn. All right, Dub coming out of left field. Lems, do you agree, buddy?
No, I do not agree. Send it to zero, Dub. You're out. You're banned from the show now. I think it just depends on your perspective here. For me, the bigger deal is the Jeremy Horn Exterio thing because it feels like we were all like, I don't know, watching this train wreck occur over the last like 12 or 18 months or however long it's been, where we thought there was a TGE coming and all this, and there's like all this big hype for Overworld. And now it's just faded away and like, oh yeah, they're publishing some stuff and yeah, we're gonna focus on our 4X. And remember that game that we talked about a bunch? Yeah, never mind, it doesn't matter. But if you're someone who's more like, yeah, you're traditional Web2 gamer, someone who's just focused on the gameplay in the space, like you're gonna be way more excited about the off the grid skin if you're like an off the grid player. I'm not an off the grid player. I suck at FPS, so I'm just more looking at the exterior thing and just being like, man, like this game that was so hyped last year, and now it's like, oh yeah, by the way, it's paused indefinitely. Of like, who knows if it'll ever actually happen. RIP.
RIP indeed. Koji, over to you. What's the bigger deal here? Overworld being paused or Off the Grid landing another big influencer?
I'm gonna go positive. Surprise, surprise. And I think it's the Off the Grid thing, honestly. Continuing to get influencers into the ecosystem and hopefully bring eyes to the product is huge. And the fact that they still have a lot of bullets in their chamber that they can fire is really positive. And I think that like more people should take notice of that and be happy about it. I mean, it's your fucking game of the year, right? So let them just like keep chugging along. Good for them.
All right, Koji says let OTG cook. Let's go over to Knock, then we'll tag in Tony.
Yeah, it's funny. A few weeks ago, we're having a conversation about, is it done for OTG? What sort of things do they need to do? And we described this type of thing. And I think getting sign off from somebody like Scump is significantly more impactful than just another creator that's working with OTG.
I think when you're looking at esports, Scump is not a mere man in the world of Call of Duty. Scump is might as well be a fucking deity. He is the guy. He is one of the guys, and he is somebody whose opinion deeply matters. And for him to attach his brand, his name to a skin in a Web3 game is something that I think everybody should be excited about. This is the faker of Call of Duty, a guy who is maybe not quite that large, but he is one of the guys in the history of this game, and it is incredibly important to have signal from people like him who are not just influencers, who don't just have streams, but have real deep fans. If you've ever watched Call of Duty in your life and you tell me that you don't know Scump, you haven't watched Call of Duty in your life. I can promise you that. He has been at the pinnacle of that game for the course of the last 20 years. Having somebody like him do something like this, I think is actually a really bullish sign. Does the skin itself matter? Probably not. Does it make waves in the Web3 community? More likely that it doesn't. But what I think it does do is signal that there are people in the traditional Web2 space who make their entire livelihoods off of content. And there are people who are slowly but surely becoming more open to the idea of partnering with or playing or paying attention to games within this space. And I think that's the sort of signal that we should be excited about. I think that's the biggest deal of the bunch for sure.
You guys are full of surprises. I thought we were going to take this opportunity to just dunk on Exterio, but egg on my face. Delb, over to you, buddy, and then to Jerry.
Yeah, I just also, it looks like Tony raised his hand, but I just got to call like baloney on this whole Scump excitement that I'm hearing because like I vividly remember Tim the Tatman saying, hey, Off the Grid is my new favorite game. I'm going to play this on the regular. And he hasn't done anything since that moment. And like, I think this is just a repeat with Scump. It hasn't brought new players on and it's not going to. It sucks, but it's just the way it is right now.
Let's go to Jerry, and then I can't see Tony's hand raised, but Twitter strikes again. I'll send it to him after. Jerry, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm with Dub here. I think I don't know that Scump having a skin in the game is anything more than like what OTG did previously, which is maybe just pay somebody for their likeness or to put something in the game. And that did well for a brief moment in time, but it didn't really do much for the longevity and like the sustained player base of that game. So I think we're here in Web3 games and we have a Web3 fumble that happened in front of us, and the NFTs got sold for Overworld. The NFTs got sold and the pre-sale got put out for this game that is now paused, and I think that's a really I think we're just glossing over that. Um, I think it's a big deal that this thing that we were all excited about and this thing that was supposed to be this breakthrough thing that we all were really excited about. And I think we all genuinely on this panel were really excited to see Overworld come out. To hear that that's getting paused in favor of a platform that is hopefully going to help. I'm always going to be the optimist. I think hopefully Reach helps you know games go to market a little bit easier, and I think they're doing some interesting things on that. But to see the big MMO AAA game get paused in favor of a mobile game and a platform, that sucks because we all got promised a lot of different things than what we're going to end up getting. So I think that's a pretty big deal, and I don't think we should gloss over that.
Yeah, I think, whenever it's something like, okay, a game studio had like their funding pull out, or I don't know, the genre isn't as popular, something happened, the market, we missed the mark, okay, and you have one product and it's just the game, it's almost more understandable. But for Exterio that has like 17 different things going on at any given time, to say you're going to pause the one thing that people were genuinely excited about, at least in our cohort. I know, especially in Asia, people are excited about Paleo, and they also marketed Age of Dino to a little bit more of like the hyper casual audience and Asian audience. But with Overworld, that was really like sold to us. And for them to take away the only thing that I felt like the West was excited about is pretty staggering to me. Like, it makes me just completely uninterested in the rest of their products personally. And that might be what they're trying to do. Maybe they just say, hey, we're going to cater to an Eastern audience. That's where the money is, that's where the engagement is, whatever. then I guess I can see the logic, but it still like makes me upset, to be honest. Let's go over to Tony. Tony V.
That's most interesting to me. Oh, sorry. Can you guys hear me?
We can.
Yeah. So two things. One, yeah, super bullish on Off the Grid putting more mainstream folks in their game. For all the reasons stated, I think that's going to be uh, better and better for the Web3 gaming community. The more that happens, and on the Overworld thing, I'm less disappointed and more like what's the word like Schadenfreude. And I think back to I think it was almost exactly a year ago. One of the funniest things that I've ever heard in my life was on this show. It was like the first time I ever interacted with Koji, and it was like big deal, little deal, no deal. Overworld just sold out in 3 seconds or whatever. And Koji's reply was so schmarmy. It was like, "Yeah, guys, no roadmap, no website, no video about the game. Sell out immediately. We're back, boys. Let's go." And so like that actually like just it's like feels like really on brand for me. Like what's happening right now.
Let's go to Sinjin up next. Sinjin, what do you think? Bigger deal between Xtereo and Scump joining Off the Grid? All right, we'll go to Kevin Lambert instead. Kevin, over to you, buddy.
Man, a Web3 team moving from a product to a platform, that is disappointing to me, just because I feel like what we need in this space is more like we have enough picks and shovels and they're getting better and some of them are really good, but we need more products. We need amazing products because people, that's what moves people, right? You're like, oh, I have to play that. Ooh, I have to have that. Not, ooh, I have to come to that launch pad, right? So, while it's great that that they're doing that, I am sad. Is it surprising in the world of over promises and under delivery? No, operational excellence is very hard to find in this space. So I can't say I'm surprised, but I can say that I'm sad. And so therefore that's not a big deal because it's not a surprise. It's just, it's just, and I also don't think, oh my God, it's flames, the end of the world. It's just sort of like, yeah, okay, another one bites the dust. But Off the Grid, getting another mainstream influencer, that's potentially really cool. There's the glass half empty perspective, like Jerry and some folks had. You're like, yeah, they're just gonna say that and then be gone, take their paycheck and leave. But I mean, the more shots you have on goal there, the better I think we end up. So I like that it is yet another shot on goal. I love seeing Parallel getting mainstream influencers. I love seeing Off the Grid getting mainstream influencers. I think the more teams and games that do that, eventually the door will be knocked on enough times that it will squeak open and then swing open. So I'm good. I think that is the better deal, the bigger deal.
Koji, what say you, brother?
Yeah, I mean, I answered this already, but I'm just kind of shocked at the panel, to be honest with you. Like, it wasn't that long ago that everyone here was praying at the altar of Off the Grid, being like, "It's the next biggest thing. Fucking save Web3 gaming. What a miracle!" Like, and it wasn't. It was like a couple months ago that it was voted Web3 Game of the Year at the awards that we were all at, and now we're like, "Oh, they just got another influencer." What nonsense, Like they're cooked. It's so
Who
crazy,
who
man.
said
It's
that?
so
A
crazy.
bunch of people were like, "This is a huge deal."
No, no, come on. There was a bunch of other people on this panel just being like, I don't know, these guys are just gonna cut and run and whatever. And I'll say this, like the one thing I'll say about most of the influencers that we've dealt with so far is like sometimes the deals are made and money changes hands or whatever, but a lot of these guys aren't just gonna take anything. Like they're not willing to like play your game just because. Case in point, like we got the Hearthstone. I don't know if he's the current champion or the last champion or whatever. Bunny Hopper on board to play. Actually, he's on stream right now, opening packs or something. I'm told, but that took a while. He was like, I don't know, I don't really feel good about Web3. I want to play the game, whatever. And he like actually took a bunch of time and played the game and then came back to us, and then he wanted to meet with us, the team, and be like, okay, like, are you guys like full of shit? Are you guys for real? What's the deal here? Do you care about these games? So like I think that you have to give him a bit more credit when it comes to snagging this guy, and it is like, yeah, it's just like, right now it's just a skin in the game, but it obviously means that
he, no pun intended, has skin in the game as well. So like, he's putting his name out there, and if this game is like a bullshit scam, then like it's not going to look too good on him either. So I think that like we got to give him a bit more a bit more
I
respect.
just want to riff on what Koji said, because we're going through the same thing now. We're reaching out to Web 2 people just to sanity check our product market fit. And these are people who have no knowledge of Web 3 or a negative, or a cautiously optimistic perspective of it or whatever. And we're seeing exactly the same thing. They're like, we get pitched a lot of games over here. And, there's a reputation to uphold. So they will not just take every game. We're seeing that. And also getting some good positive feedback. But yeah, we're running into that same thing. Totally agreed, Koji.
All right. Sounds like Koji's giving it a big deal. He's taking that one for Scump. Let's go over to Sinjin. I think we were having some technical difficulties there.
Yeah, it was like ultra rugged by Twitter. So I'll just see on off the grid, like I said before, let them cook. They're doing the Web2 playbook, and I think the fact that another major streamer, the deity, has come on board, whether or not that pans out, I mean, it's just part of the game and the process for it. But I haven't really publicly commented on this, but with Jeremy, I know him personally. I'd like to say that on some level we're friends, so it's hard for me to really say so much. But on a personal level, like what Kevin said, I'm kind of sad about the entire situation. But really, like, man, like on the game side, and for when I was reading that announcement, I thought that they would say, okay, well, we're all full steam with Overworld. I wasn't expecting that to come on, that they were going to pause it. And I think there's a lot of business considerations there, and what he feels that he's got to prioritize and stuff like that, whether it's Asia or the dev or the actual like timeline or the expectations that have been created, that building an MMO at that scale, it was always going to be a long-term difficult proposition. And as a game designer, I looked at what the spec and the scopes was, whatever, a year and a half ago or whatever it was. And I saw a private deck before as well, and it was a fucking lot, and it was great. I mean, I was looking at it and I thought, this is fucking fantastic. Once upon a time I had wanted to do an MMO, and it would have been on similar lines in terms of scope and the scale, but in terms of the bridges he's burned because of that, because that was the entry point. I'm not going to say it's a warning sign. I mean, like for other developers, because why Web3 gaming is very difficult, and even more difficult now in some respects, is because we have to compete for attention. So people who want to get that attention to some hype project that doesn't have fucking nothing, that's totally outsourced all their development and putting 90% of their efforts into their website and their trailer, and that's all they have. It's really hard to compete with that, and then it's even harder to compete and puts you in a really bad position when you have to set out those expectations. But once those expectations are out in the world, even if you give out a free mint, people are trading that, and that price is going higher, and people not just have their bags but are invested. And that entire campaign for are you worthy, I mean, people really grinded that. And in a lot of ways, like, I have so much respect for Jeremy, because he has tried to really toe that line on both ways, not managing expectations, but playing the game and working through it, and trying to game the game as well. And in this sense, I think he's come to that point where the scope and the scale of what he's doing operationally has had him to make really hard choices. And some of those hard choices are, the outcome for the community is straight up fucking brutal. I don't envy him, but on the other hand, he's not blameless here. But it's almost like it's just like the really downside of being Web3 and a founder in this space of gaming. Like, this is like a really bad case study example of it. So that's probably the only thing I'll say further on it. But I wish him and his family the best, and his organization.
Yeah, fair take there. I like Jeremy, the person. He said he got some like death threats and stuff. That's absolutely unacceptable, no matter what. But not super stoked with the exterior situation. Let's go over to Dub, and then we'll do the MVP of the episode.
Yeah, I just wanted to speak to Koji directly and explain like my flippening because I was all for Off the Grid. I voted for them for Game of the Year. But since December, as a user and as a player, I've just been disappointed left and right. None of the updates seem to be what the community's asking for. The average players are constantly decreasing. And like, yeah, I also work at Shrapnel and they're fucking competitors. So I'm going to take shots where I can see shots. And like, I just look at this whole thing as they're putting money, burning money on this pit of fire, and they have amazing bounce rates happening. And they should be fixing their shit before they get Scump in or some other one in because it's just wasted opportunities for the entire space, is the way I'm looking at it.
So for the record, I agree with you, Dub. And my stance has always been from the beginning when everyone was hyping it up, I was like, let's just see what happens when all the shine wears off. But I just think that it's funny that everyone was just so excited and now it's just kind of fizzled out. But anyway.
All right, Koji, on that note, give us the first MVP of the episode. Who's got your pick, bud?
Oh, that's a good question. You know what? I'm gonna give it to Dub because he had that great pun in the beginning of the episode. Dub, you're my MVP.
Yikes.
Love
All
you,
right.
buddy.
Dub, who
Fucking
you got, buddy?
enjoy it. Enjoy it, Sam. Just bask in it. I'm giving it to Kevin. I'm looking forward to being at the parallel championships with Kevin, and hopefully he won't ruin this MVP moment.
Kevin, who you picking, bud?
Damn, the pressure. I'm giving it to Koji because this was an episode where he had so many takes where I'm like, ooh, spot on. Totally agreed. Totally agreed. So I'm going to throw it over to Koji.
God, I gotta get less fucking boomers on this show because all you guys just like to scream at us Zoomers and tell us that we're irrational and change our opinions too much. Lems, who you got, buddy? Who's your MVP?
Oh, John Allen, he was on an absolute ripper, especially like that for earlier take on like decentralization and everything when we were talking about the TikTok stuff. Yeah, big shout out, John.
John, who you got today, brother?
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Knock. I mean, just I think every time I listen to this space or every time I'm on this space, he just keeps up the energy and just like it keeps everything spicy and like that's what I'm here for. I'm here for the drama, the counter tanks. It's counter takes, you know. It's like I just enjoy it. Yeah.
It is always the best content whenever people are willing to take both sides of the argument instead of just agreeing in circles. Knock, over to you, bud. Who's your MVP?
Bro, I'll argue with anybody, including myself. I love it. No, MVP here absolutely is Koji. I love how often this guy's got fucking receipts of shit that somebody said in passing 6 years ago before any of us even joined this ecosystem. I love it. I love that he keeps us honest. I think it's part of what makes this show so good. Keep doing it, Koji.
Jerry, who you got?
I'm also gonna say Koji. Yeah, I love that Koji just has this infallible memory that he can harken back to shit that none of us even remember that we said, and he can tell us what the exact quote was. And yeah, he was right about a lot of the things he said today, except for the fact that I've always mid curved OTG. Koji, put some fucking respect on my takes.
Congratulations, brother. Sinjin, who you got?
Yeah, I thought Jerry and John Allen had some great takes as well today, as well as well the entire panel, Kevin as well, and Dub and Nog. But Koji, I love him because he's super fucking consistent and he's far more articulate and witty in how he presents things, far more than myself. And yeah, just Koji, you fucking killed it this week and most weeks. So yeah, you're definitely my MVP.
All right, two more to go. Wills and Tony. Wills, who you got?
Koji for sure, just prime form.
Prime form. Tony, you gonna go against the grain?
I wish I could, but it's Koji. We talked about shit that was funny a year ago. It was funny today, and he brought more humor. And I'm real cheap with my praise. If you can make me laugh, I love you.
Koji, that's 60 seconds of FaceTime, bud. What do you want to talk about today?
So I'm just gonna shamelessly plug for a second and just say we got the World Championships coming up in Vegas. Everyone should come. Wayfinder's coming out soon, and that's gonna change the Web3 landscape. And then all the shit that we talk about is gonna be irrelevant, hopefully. But really, I want to say, Sam, that like I'm not yelling at I don't know, millennials or Zoomers or Gen Alpha or whatever the fuck. It mainly comes from a place of self-hate. I am also just as guilty, and so I'm looking at myself in the mirror when I say most of this shit. Just so you know. But yeah, I mean, whatever. Look, as long as we're all having fun, enjoying the space, hopefully making money or not losing too much money or whatever it is that you're here for, hopefully playing some good games, then just keep doing what you're doing. Like I am uh, truly this bitter in real life, but I also know how to have a good time. I only enjoy three things though, so you know,
What are the three?
I like games, I like movies, and I like my family. So anyone who wants to join me in any of those three things, and all the things surrounding those three things, then I'm down. So like Wolves Den, perfect. You know, there's games there. There's people. There's guys like Sam and everyone else on this panel that I consider family. So I'm having a good time. But outside of that, I'm out on almost everything else.
That's dope.
And climbing,
Yeah. Oh
climbing,
fuck yeah. Are
climbing.
we still going climbing? Oh, we'll talk about that. I just want to say it's cool, Koji, that I also agree with you. Nobody hates me as much as I hate myself. So I really relate to you.
Only I can kill me.
MVP from now on is going to be recalled to therapy minute at the end of the show. Excited that we can all get some of that self-hatred out. Here's hoping that you can make it another 6 days and 22 hours in order to make it to your next therapy session. Hold on, boys. It's always darkest before the dawn. As we chill out in this captivating conversation, let's give a frosty farewell and a flurry of gratitude to our friends at Avalanche. They're the cool cats of the crypto sphere, the pioneers of the permafrost, and the official blockchain of Gamified. Don't be left shivering in the cold. Join Solo Leveling, T1 Esports, Off the Grid, the California DMV, and so many others with your very own L1 blockchain built to your own specifications. Thank you to Avalanche, the absolute best sponsors in the game. Alongside, let's give a thunderous thank you to Star Atlas, the official game of Gamified and our interstellar sponsor. Star Atlas has spent the bear market building a universe, pushing Web3 boundaries and setting new standards in transparency and player ownership. Star Atlas believes in showing, not telling, so I won't spoil 2025 for you yet. But go to play.staratlas.com and check out the Golden Carnival to get involved. Remember, with Star Atlas, you're not just a player, you're also a pioneer. And of course, Game 7, the best infrastructure in the game is flipping the script on traditional gaming grinds. Forget those greedy gatekeepers hoarding all the loot. Game 7 is putting their gold where their gaming is, ensuring 80% of the revenue goes right back to the players. With over 150 games already on board, Game 7 isn't just pressing continue, they're shattering records and respawning us into a brighter gaming future. So grab your gamepads and get ready to conquer the next era of gaming with Game 7 and get in touch with the official infrastructure of Gamified. Thank you to all of my incredible panelists and, of course, all the people listening at home. We appreciate you guys. We will see you back here, same time, same place for episode 102. And, of course, you can join us on Simplified for a little bit more token talk, a little bit more spice as well on Mondays at 4 p.m. Eastern. Appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. Have a great day.